Let's get some analysis now from Des Roches. He joins us from the U.S. Capitol, where he's a professor at the Near East South Asia Center for Security Studies at National Defense University. Prof, always good to speak to you. Do you think the West is actually doing enough to dissuade President Putin from sending his troops across the border into Ukraine?
Hard to say, but I think so. I'm very heartened by what we've seen in the last few weeks. I was worried that the Macron mission might kind of go sideways, but it seems that he was on post. The other weak link in the alliance was supposed to be Germany, but after the German chancellor's meetings with American leadership here, it seems that they're on board. So it seems that Putin, who I think is more interested in restraining NATO than he is in actually doing anything in Ukraine, has provoked what he fears most. He's actually unified NATO to a degree and operationalized them to a degree that we haven't seen before.
Which is very interesting because it was just last week when NATO didn't really seem like a very unified organization, with Germany not wanting to be as tough on Russia. That seems to have changed slightly in the last 48 hours or so. And the U.S. for weeks now has been hyping up this military buildup on the Russia-Ukraine border. Moscow, though, saying, don't worry, we're not going to do anything. But if they aren't planning on invading, why then is the Kremlin beefing up troops on its border?
Yeah, good question. So I think that, let's not underestimate what they've done militarily. I mean, they've moved units from the Pacific Ocean all the way out to the Ukraine border. So there's a couple of possibilities here. The first is I think that the specter of warfare on the Ukrainian continent, I think Putin calculated that that is so bad. And I think he calculated that he had a wounded and infirm President Biden, who had seen his domestic agenda defeated, Boris Johnson fighting for his life, Macron facing a tough election, a new German chancellor. I think he thought that now was the time he could reimpose a sphere of influence like we saw in the Cold War, Helsinki between the Warsaw Pact and NATO. And he's using this as a tool to do that. That's not there. The second thing I think he wanted was basically to punish Ukraine for having a color revolution that overthrew Putin's preferred subordinate leader. And I think he fears a color revolution in Russia, which is going to have a very long, difficult winter with the economy tanking, inflation at 18%. So, if he can move the country onto a war footing, Russians will start blaming foreigners and stop asking, what has our leadership done? And why do all these people around Putin have townhouses in London?
Yeah, well, it would be interesting if that was to happen because the U.S., of course, saying that they will slap heavy sanctions on Russia, making then the economic situation even worse there. How much of this, though, also centers around the Minsk Accords and Putin really not being happy about that?
Well, the Minsk Accords are, I don't like to talk about the Minsk Accords. I think we should talk about the Budapest Memorandum, in which Russia committed to respect the territorial integrity of Ukraine in exchange for Ukraine agreeing for nuclear weapons to be removed from it. The Minsk Accords was basically signed with a gun to the head of the Ukraine. But I think Ukraine has roughly kept to the Minsk Accords. There have been violations on both sides. I think that to mention the Minsk Accord in the context of this buildup is really blaming a victim for mumbling after you've knocked out his teeth.
Okay, that's quite a way to end that. Des Roches, always good to get your analysis on this. Live to us there from Washington. Thanks so much.